All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, Wahar HaKodash, which Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shai, that's whom this world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, it's his true name, and the Kodash, that is the Holy Spirit. And I would like to also give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and salutations to all you brothers out there. And I just want to do a quick lesson that's based on this Manhattan shooting that occurred yesterday. And, I believe there's two reasons why this shooting, has occurred. And I'll start with the first one is I believe that Esau is trying to push the narrative that Jake, is a problem, and he's, becoming the new face of domestic tea. All right. And it's funny because Sunday at the live show that we had out here in Chicago, Elder Malcolm mentioned how since we disagree with Esau's, ideologies, his philosophies, and the things that he's, in general pushes, right? We're becoming, the new face for that, like I said, for domestic tea, okay? Because you got to remember, we live in a society where they call evil good and good evil, right? That's Isaiah 5:20, all right? And since we're in complete opposition to this, present evil world, right? Esau's got to point the finger, saying, look, this is the problem. It's these individuals over here. All right. So that's the first thing that I thought about when I saw this whole situation unfold. The second thing is, in general, they're going to say that, basically the lower class is starting to lose control of themselves. And, they're going to say that we have to enforce more of a police state. All right, because I'll say this, this individual, he ended up deleting a BlackRock executive. And if you don't know what BlackRock is, they're basically a very upscale, basically investment group. They deal with all sorts of things, real estate, infrastructure, so on and so forth. You could just look it up. There's a lot that they, get into. Okay, so that CEO, or not CEO, but that executive ended up getting deleted. And you got to remember, not that long ago, several months back, you had that Italian young man, right? Luigi Mangione. He deleted the CEO of United Healthcare. All right. And it's funny because the New York Post had just put an article out a couple hours ago, maybe 5, 6, 7 hours ago, saying you have people, linking these two individuals up. These quote unquote, 99 percenters, right? They're starting to make a noise in the world. You see? But in reality, these things were all a setup because, like I said, Esau Edom, the elites in particular of Esau Edom, right? They want to shut things down. Okay? They want to get full control because they're losing the narrative. Look, everyone knows the government is shady. The government is oppressing the people. Everybody knows that they're in, cahoots with all these, major corporations, who, whatever it may be, you see? So You know, the little guy is getting tired, because really the little guy is getting backed into a corner. Okay, because just look at the cost of living right now. You know, average home in America is like $400,000. All right, you know that basically is almost double the price of what it would cost in 2020. All right, but mind you, your wages have maybe barely gone up. Let's just say, 5% in the last 5 years. But everything has doubled. Like I said, from the cost of these homes to your insurances to your groceries, your utility bills, so on and so forth. Everybody's feeling the squeeze right now. And the ones who are creating the squeeze are the, elites, all right? First and foremost, those international bankers, all right? But then it trickles down to whom? All these people that own these different, big corporations, all right, to all these politicians, you see? So, he's really making moves. He's got to do a little thing here, a little thing there to, push his narrative, his agenda. Because he can't, come, straight forward with things. All right? But let me get this real quick. Let me get the book of Revelation 12 and 12. All right? Because this is the time period that we're living in right now. This is Revelation. I'll start at 10 though. This is Revelation 12 and 10, and it reads, "And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now has come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our power, and the power of his anointed. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our power day and night." And this is what's going to happen very soon. Okay? Esau is going to fall, because he's that accuser. And when you go into that word in the Greek, it's kategoreo, which basically means to be categorized. And that's what Esau's trying to do. Like I said, because it was funny, because I was talking about this with my woman, and I said, what so-called black man or Hispanic man, whatever, right? Basically the tribes, right? I said, well, when do you ever see them, rise up against the government? Now Jake may do a thing here or there. They may, have a little protest. They may complain. But when does Jake actually, take up arms and go do a mission like this? That's not really in Jake's spirit. We already know what, Jake is about. All right? We understand that Jake is, really on that party and BS spirit. Jake is very simple. Jake is very easy to please, so to speak. All right? That's why this whole situation, like I said, to me, is a set-up event. Okay? Now we'll see, what this whole thing's about as, time progresses. All right? The point being, though, is, they're trying to make Jake look like the bad guy right now. All right? They're trying to make Jake look like the bad guy. Like I said, they have to be justified in their reasonings. Because when they come down, they want to say, this is why we're able to do it. Look at these people. They're the ones who are causing, troubles, throughout the country. You see? And, they want to lock us up, the men of Yahweh Shemi Shai. All right, hold on 1 second. Excuse me, as I cross that street. But they want to, in particular, lock us up, the men of the Lord. And that's because we got this truth. This is really the main issue. It's not anything else, because everything else is carnal. You see, this right here, what we're doing is spiritual. And the spiritual fight is, way more important than the carnal fight. All right? You see? But let me keep reading. This is back in Revelation 12 and 11 now. And they, talking about the elect, overcame him, which that him is Esau, Edom, by the blood of the Lamb, which that's talking about Yahushai, and by the word of their testimony. And what testimony do we have? All right, this gospel, this good news, what we're preaching, what we're preaching is very devastating to Esau, because as I actually mentioned this in class, and this is something that the Elder Karab brings out quite often in Judith, the 5th chapter. It says that once basically we return, talking about the Israelites, once we return to our power, which is Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, that's when the Lord is going to fight for us. But see, if we continue in our sin and our wickedness, that's when the Lord allows the enemies to overtake us. You see? And what's happening is the elect are returning to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, and this is what's causing so much chaos in this world right now. Because as we continue to return to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, the kingdom is literally translating from one people to another. That's in the book of Sirach. The Lord is seeing that we're more profitable than this man. All right? And what I mean by this man, I'm talking about Esau. Right? The Edomites. You see? And you're seeing the Lord is fighting for us. All right? Things are happening. Things are moving. You see? But it says, and by the word of their testimony, and they love not their lives unto the death. Therefore, ye heavens and ye that dwell in them, woe. It's like, therefore rejoice, ye heavens and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. And see, this is the phase that we're going to enter into. It's fast approaching. Look, this damn devil, okay, this goddamn Edomite is going to come down. And it's not going to be pretty. Okay? Hey, Jake's got to remember that. This is not going to be, a pretty sight. Because the scriptures say what? In the book of Daniel, the 12th chapter, is going to be like a time unlike any other. All right? This wrath, this chaos, this destruction that's about to hit this place, it is going to be unreal. And this is why we got to continue to prep our minds up. Stay on our watch. Get ready. Brace for impact. Because that's what's about to happen. All right? Hey, that impact's about to hit. This is no joke, man. This is no joke. All right? You think Esau's playing around? And it's funny because we mentioned that on Saturday, how he's compassing Jerusalem right now. Esau's he's prepping things up. Remember, Jerusalem is a people before a place. He's getting ready to pounce, man. Remember, hey, the devil shall come down unto you like a roaring lion. Right? We got spiritual Satan that messes with us, of course. But his physical counterpart, which is Esau, Edom, he's coming too. All right? He's coming. And like I said, these situations that keep popping up like this is going to give this man the justification to do the things that he's about to do. Okay? Like I said, it's not going to be pretty. Let me get this. In the book of 2nd Ezra, let's get, what is that? Is that 15? It's 15. This is, 2nd Ezra 15 and 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And this, goes into so many different things. You're going to have race wars, class riots, right? Religious wars. You know what I'm saying? There's going to be a lot that's going to hit, okay? A lot that's going to hit. You see? And it says, For there shall be sedition among men. And that sedition goes into uprising against the government. Okay? Basically the powers that be. All right? And I'll say this. Now they're not exactly, you know, the modern, I guess you'd say, princes and, you know, and kings, right? But these CEOs, they, you know, and these, you know, executives and all that work for these, you know, big companies, they got a lot of power. Like I said, a lot of them, actually, in reality, they control the politicians, you know? So yeah, you're seeing, you know, an uprising against, you know, these government officials, you know, like, hey, you know, yeah, a couple years back, right? You had people coming up against Biden, all right? What was it, FJB, right? You had that going on. Now you got everybody saying, you know, DT, you know what I'm saying? Hey, people hate all these different mayors. Their approval ratings, not even 50%. You got to think about it. People that aren't even giving these politicians a 50% approval rating, you know? Doesn't matter if it's your president, your mayors, whoever. People are frustrated and fed up right now. And that's going to lead, all right, to actual physical, you know, confrontation at some point. And look, it's already starting with this. And you got a lot of people on these comment boards that are happy, right? And like I said, I'll say this is a psyop, you know, psychological operation. You know, Esau wants to see, you know, how the people are gonna, you know, gonna react to this. Because you got to remember too, you know, these people really believe that they got freedom of speech. Really, all Esau is allowing you to do is to post things, so that he can collect the receipts and use that as evidence against you. You got to remember that this guy, he's sick like that. Okay. Oh, he's gonna say, oh, see, they agree with this, they agree with that. You see, he's a danger to himself and society. Now remember, you're dealing with the damn devil here. He's not gonna play by the rules. He plays dirty. Okay. Well, let me keep reading. This is back in 2nd Ezra 15 and 16. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And that's going into the martial law. And like I said, these events that are taking place, this is going to give Esau the justification to increase the police state. They're going to have more identification to pass through places. Okay. Hell, we're getting into a phase where if you don't have good social credit, you might not be able to get on an airplane, to take a train, right? Because I'll say this, they already do this in China. You don't think they're going to do it here? And you kind of already see it, right? Via reviews. You know, you got Yelp. You know, what else? You know, Google reviews. You got all these different, what do you call those? Anytime you use like an app, you know, you can rate your customer, rate your, you know, driver, rate your delivery, you know, driver. That's basically social credit. You see? But it's going to intensify. Now he's just going to bring down the troops. Oh, look, you know, you've been trying to attack officials. You people have been trying to attack CEOs, executives, so on and so forth. There's too many riots in the streets, too much looting, too much chaos. You see? Like I said, he's going to be, you know, he's going to use these particular events to justify his actions. Okay? So it says, for because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, and the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And this is why everything's, you know, coming down the pipeline, is because people have pride. And when you have pride, you depart from the Most High, your Maker. You're basically saying that your ways are better than Yahweh Shem Shai's. And that's simply not true. You know, basically people are going to start doing what they want to do once they stop following Yahweh Shema Shai, and that way is destructive. It always leads to a terrible end, you know? Because look, the only ways to life is really following the scriptures, following the law, statutes, and commandments. That's it. You see? And you see it, especially once you get into these big cities. That's something that I've been noticing more and more, you know, because we live out, out here in Chicago. It's the third biggest metropolitan, area, right, in the States. Every time you get closer and closer to Chicago, you can sense and feel that pride that oozes off these people. You can really feel it, sense it. People are high-minded, arrogant, proud, haughty. You see? So hey, that's beautiful that this stuff is coming down the pipeline. But see, for us, I'll say this, that are in this truth, just continue to watch and pray, because these things have to come to pass. All right? Like I said, just watch. It's going to get worse out here. And watch, he's really going to play dirty. He's really going to start pointing the finger at us. All right? But, I'm going to end this lesson. This is just something that I, wanted to touch on real quick. It's something that I was, meditating on for the past, actually since it happened, so about 2 days now, day and a half. Something that I've, thinking about, and I'll say this: I was also waiting for some clips, more info to come out on this, situation, because I didn't want to, jump on it right away. All right, but hey, at the end of the day, hey, remember this, Akim, Yahweh Shem Shai is going to defend us. We're not going to lose this war. He's, going to tank. This man's going to lose terribly. All right, we got the true living power on our side. Just remember that. But I want to end this lesson, so hopefully it was an edifying one. And with that, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Shem Shai. Also double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and salutations to all your brothers out there. Shalom.